Okay, so working on the body, on the upper body, the first thing that stands out to me here is just the overall posing and the way he's standing up, the overall construction of the body. If I look at the side here, it looks like he would, if we stripped away the muscles, we take away the fat and the skin, and all we see are like the bones, it looks like he has a straight spine and like everything about him is straight. If you guys look at some spine here, you look at the spine right here, it actually has a little bit of the subtle S curve, right? Had a subtle S curve. And we need to implement that on our body here because this is way too straight. And this is a common mistake that students make when they are first starting out. So I would first go to my box hide here and I would hide the arms. That way we could see more of the torso from the side view. And then going to my object mode, I would move this back. All right, I would move this back because remember I have adjusted the neck to kind of pull it back because the Adam's apple was way too close to the chin. And I would also go to my neck area here, making sure I am on my symmetry, and I'm gonna pull that back. Okay, something like that. Because we need to have more of this. This is the skull, and we need to have more of an S curve there. Some curves, and then going to the body. All right, I'm gonna go to sculpt mode and making sure that I have symmetry turned on. So I'm doing both sides. I'm gonna go to my grab brush. Yeah, and I would definitely start to add a little bit more of that curve shape. Yeah, everything here is just a little bit way too straight. And then even the leg looks straight. So I would kind of pull this forward and then pull this kind of back. So the leg should, so we should have this kind of shape. We have the head here, and then we have the spine S curve. And then for this, we should have, the leg should not be straight like this, all right? We should have more this shape going, okay? And yeah, that's why I was kind of moving this there. And then maybe the back should be pulled back down, right? But I'm not worried too much about the legs, just worried about the upper body for now. And I'm gonna go and show the arms again. And of course you can see that since we made some changes, this has happened. And I'm gonna go to the settings, the brush settings, and for the voxel size is 0.025. So when you're, once again, if you are gonna make changes to the overall proportion and to the overall anatomy, you should not be working at a high resolution right now. So I would definitely crank this up. So maybe 0.07. Let's try that out. Remesh. Okay, I think we could probably work with 0.065. Okay, so maybe something like that to begin with. Because since we are fixing a lot of things here. For my smooth brush, I'm going to bring that down. So keep in mind that the lower the resolution, the lower the smoothing brush should be if you don't want to melt down the clay. And of course, since we did make some changes here on the body, you could see that we have to make changes to the shoulder. We could probably make it bigger. Yeah, same as with the face. Like at the beginning, I wouldn't worry too much about I wouldn't worry too much about the likeness of the body, the person's body. If you're doing likeness, I would just worry about the anatomy, the overall anatomy. Make sure the proportion is right, the connection of the muscles right. So right here it's a little too flimsy, so I would thicken up the shoulder a bit. And of course, thicken up the back part, as we did make some changes here. And add a little bit of bulk here. Think about the overall proportion. Just using my regular draw brush for this. And just adding a bulk to him. And adding the lats muscles here. Just to bulking it up. Not really thinking too much of the individual muscles, but just thinking of the overall shape. And that's really what you should be doing at the beginning. Not so focused on the individual muscles, but just thinking of the entire silhouette of the character. Crank up the clay strip brush, and I would add a little bit of bulkiness here. And I could kind of like move that down. Right there. So we know we got a little bit of shape here going at the beginning. Okay. All right, so first things first, the main issue right off the bat, after, of course, the overall pose. Another thing that I think is a huge problem, let me fix this up a bit. This is bothering me. Yeah, this needs to be bulked up a bit here. The connection of the muscles, all right, for the arm. So this is another main issue that a lot of beginners go through, like around under the arm. Underarm area is a major problem for beginners. So you have to think about how the biceps is connected and how the chest muscles are connected to the bone. All right. So if you guys look here at Google, right, you can see that this is the bicep. And the bicep is connected to the coracoid process of the scapula. So this is the scapula, which is our bone at the back. All right, this is the scapula region right here. And so we have part of the bicep that's connected to the scapula region, the coracoid process. And then we have another part of the bicep that is connected to the tubercle of our humerus, which is our arm bone, upper arm bone. So what you need to think about is, after understanding that information, right, since we know that our scapula, so the scapula is basically the bone that's here, right? You could feel it. If you feel it at your back, there's this bony thing at on your upper back. So the scapula this is going to be our bone for our arm, and then we have our scapula there. Yeah, our scapula region, which is going to be more like at the back, right? So our bicep is connected onto the scapula. The tendon of the bicep is connected to the scapula, and also a part of it, there are two heads of the bicep. The other head is connected to the tubercle of the funny bone, which is our humerus bone, our upper arm bone. So knowing that, what you have to understand is, if you have, let's say this is a bodybuilder and he's flexing his bicep, showing off his guns, right? So this is his bicep. Let me do a better drawing. So yeah, so this is his hands right here. It's on a fist, and then he's showing his guns. So we have our deltoid. So we got, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh boy, I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, we have our guy here, bodybuilder guy. All right, he's showing up his guns. So we got our deltoid, which is going to be this part here, right? And what you need to understand is we have our deltoid, but then you have to understand that we have also our chest. Okay, so the chest is going to be underneath that deltoid, right? So we have our chest here of the guy. So we got our deltoid, our chest, kind of underneath the deltoid area. And then underneath that chest, you're going to see the connection of, you're going to see like the bicep connecting under there. And then you're going to have this little muscle here. Also, you're going to see the muscle in the underarm. It's called coracobrachialis. And then after that, you're going to see this is going to be the tricep area. Okay, so that's how the muscle works here. So understanding that, you can see that this is a huge problem. This is a huge problem, the way it connects. So understanding the information, what we should really have is we should have the deltoid here, right? So there's the deltoid. And then what we should have, this is going to be the chest. Should be connected. Something like this, right? So it's kind of underneath that deltoid. So this is our deltoid right here. And then the area where the tendon of the chest connect is underneath the deltoid. And then we are going to have underneath that chest is going to be our bicep. All right. Just the way, if you understand how the muscles connect, that's understanding that we know that that's how it's going to, the way it's going to look. Understanding the information, we kind of know how to create this area much better if you understand the origin and the insertion of the muscles. And I really suggest that if you're not sure how the muscles connect, to go to Google and just type in the muscle. You could type in bicep, origin, and insertion, and then you could see exactly where it's connecting to, where the ligaments of the muscles is connected to the bone. That way you understand which muscles go on top of what, which muscles goes underneath what. All right, instead of just like sculpting and guessing. So understanding the information, we could go ahead and fix this here. So I would use my clay brush to just kind of fix this area up. And I would use my grab brush to bring down this chest area a bit. And we know that this here is kind of connected under there. We know that this here connected right here. I would bring this down a bit to 0.06 and then do a little remeshed. So we got a little bit more to work with. Yeah, so understanding that, we know that there's going to be a muscle right there. This is going to be the deltoid, and then here is going to be the chest, and underneath it, this is me exaggerating. Of course, this is going to be a lot more subtle, but this is just me trying to show you exactly how this area this entire area works. That's why I'm exaggerating it. But of course, this is going to be smoothed out. Yeah. And often you would see like a little bit of pinch here around this area because there's like muscles that are kind of accumulating here, coming together. So you would see a little pinching there. But yeah, that is basically how this works. And then I would kind of fix the bicep area, make it a little bit bulky. And another thing about the bicep is you have a bodybuilder, you should have this shape and then this shape right here, all right? So right now it looks a little bit too straight. So I would add more of a nice little angle there. I would use my grab brush. You just gonna add a little bit bulk. So we got this nice little angle right there. And around here, this is too curvy. It kind of look unrealistic. So I would use my grab brush to just kind of pull this out, something like this. From you looking from this view, you're gonna see a little bit more like this kind of shape from the tricep area. And another thing, if you guys look here, yeah, there's definitely some issues here at the back, and I'll talk about this in a minute. But we are just looking at the front, here, and looking from the top. It's kind of unclear exactly where this is all these are going. All right, so you have to understand that we do have a collarbone here, and then we have this part of our acromion process. So for built guys, you're gonna see more of a dip there. If for skinny people, you're gonna see more of a bump, like from the side view. If a guy is or a girl is skinny, you're gonna see more of a little bump. So you have a bump, and then there's their arms right here. If it's skinny person, if it's a guy, if it's a built fit person, then you would see more a little dip. Okay, and since this guy is built, you would like add your shoulders there, and then push this in a little bit, and then add your, from the top view here, you would have your clavicle, and then push this in a little bit. Same here, if you have a built guy, you won't see much of the clavicle bone, but more of the thickness of the chest muscles. You would see a little bit of the bony landmark, but not as much, because that will be covered with the thickness of the muscles. And I would do this here. So it's a little too deep around this area, so I would like add a little thickness here in this area using my draw brush. And I'm gonna bring down the intensity. Yeah, bulk this up a bit. Always good to look in all views, top view, front view. Students, beginners, they just tend to look at the front, but never really they look at the bottom or top. So those are so important. Yeah, when I was first starting out, I tend to ignore that area too a whole lot. But yeah, as you gain more and more experience, you know more what to look at. And another thing here is the abs area. Okay, so if you are doing abs, all right, so we know that we have our rib cage here, a rib cage. So we are supposed to have our muscles for our abs. The first part of abs, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we have a belly button there, and then we have keg right here. So an issue with this is just way too long. So I would adjust that. First, I would add a little bit more of the abs here, maybe a little thicker. And then this part could also be thicker. Yes, definitely could be thicker. That way we could have, of course, the abs are not going to be 100% equal, but at the same time, you don't want it to be too much where it's just way, way off. And I would kind of bring this down a little bit. And this here, smooth that out. So usually when you are creating a body, yeah, you're gonna have the six pack here, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then what you're gonna have is the navel button either right here, or I see some guys where their belly button is like right here. You see the abs here, and it's kind of aligning there. Or there are even a few guys where it's slightly above, maybe like this. But either way, it's gonna be somewhere around here. After you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's gonna be somewhere around there. All right. So, and another thing is with the abs, you are going to see like maybe it's a little narrow here, and then it gets a little wider, and then it gets narrow again. So think of that shape when you are doing the ab area. And yeah, I would make this a little bit narrower. Something like that. And I'm not so sure what is going on with this bulkiness that's been added. There's like this weird bulge there. So I would get rid of that bulge. I'm gonna use my draw brush to just kind of smooth this out, and then add a little bit of thickness around here. Just smooth that area out. Smooth it out. And of course, really think about how the muscles connect here. All right. So we are going to have, yes, we have nipples, and then in the nipple area, right? Yeah, that's going to be your guide for where your obliques are going to be. So we're going to have this right here, and then we're going to have this oblique muscle. That's going to be basically our guide where the division is for the sawtooth muscle here. And yeah, so thinking of that, thinking of exactly where the nipples are at, which is going to be like around this area, just doing it subtly. And I would start to add exactly where the obliques are going to be. When I am doing the obliques, I usually four of these would be good enough to show. All right. So 1, 2, 3. There you go. And we're gonna have our latissimus dorsi here, our lats muscles. So we have our lats here, right? That's the lats. And then that is basically gonna go all around our lats. That gives us that nice V shape. It's that thin sheet of muscle. Of course, if you are really built, it could be really large, and it's gonna look like you have a really big V-shaped torso. And yeah, that's what it is right there. And I would add a little bit more of the love here. Pick up going to my clay strip brush. Yeah. And going to the arm area, we could add a little bit more of the fibrous muscles here. Okay, so when you are doing the arms here, this is also another issue that a lot of students seem to be facing. What you need to do is you need to think about where the triceps originates, where it inserts. Okay, so looking at this here, if you don't understand where it connects, right, sometimes you just kind of guess and you don't know where it is. If you guys go to google.com and you just type in Triceps Origin and Insertion, you can see that we have our scapula here, right? And then we have our upper arm bone right here. And our tricep is basically here, right? This is our tricep. And part of our tricep connects to a little bit on the scapula, on the side, and most of it are kind of just attached onto our humerus bone, our upper arm bone. And if you guys look at the deltoid, you type in deltoid origin or insertion, you can see here. So the deltoid is going to be attached onto the border of the scapula and onto the humerus like this. And what's going to happen is the tricep is underneath. It's going to be underneath that deltoid because the tricep is going to, part of the tricep is going to be from here, and then it's going to attach somewhere underneath here onto the tubercle of the scapula. Yeah, the tricep is attached a little bit on around this area of the scapula, you see right here, and part of it is going to be under here. So understanding that and how it connects, if you guys go to back here, we need to understand that if we create our scapula here, let's say we have our scapula right here, right? We have our scapula here. Our deltoid, the tendon of the deltoid attaches right here at the spine of the scapula, and our tricep here is going to be kind of underneath here. And yeah, so it's going to be, we can have a little bit of thickness here for our triceps. And keep in mind that we do rotate our arm a lot, so we're gonna have this little bit of crease here. I'm gonna bring the voxel size down to 0.05 and just gonna remesh this so we have a little bit more to work with. Yeah, so I would use a draw sharp to just kind of push this in so we have a little bit of division there. So even though it does attach a little bit to the scapula area, muscle's gonna rotate a lot, and so we're gonna have a little bit of that division showing. And we have a teres major muscle, which is the hero muscles, the upper back muscles here. This right here connects. So what we have, right, we have our scapula right here, and our teres major, which is the hero muscles, attaches from the scapula, the lower end of the scapula, and it attaches. So we have our upper arm bone here, and the scapula area, our teres major area, connects to right in the inner part of the bone, the upper arm bone, which is right in this area here. And of course, our deltoid is just kind of covering that area. So you just have to understand where the big muscle here is connected. We are really going to be seeing the muscle kind of hiding under here because it is in the inner part of the bone, the upper arm bone. But when you are doing the triceps, you could add some more bulk here for it to pop out more. And when you're doing the muscles here for the back, the muscle that really pops out when you're doing the back muscles, and a lot of bodybuilders, you're really gonna see that their teres major bulks up. As a big bodybuilder, is the hero muscles. Yes, I would add a little bit more bulk on there. And then going here, I would add a little bit of dip here, and then make this part a little bit bulky. Put this in. All right. And then I would kind of make this a little wider. Something like that. And then add a little bit of the spinal muscle here, indication of the spinal muscle. We have this like nice spinal muscle going. And we have little lats. And then we got our little butt area. Now, around the butt area here, you need to think more when you're doing a guy's butt. You think of more of the bean shape type. If you're doing a female, then you could have it more like this. But if you're doing especially a bodybuilder, firm type of butt, yeah, think of more of the shape of a bean. All right, and have that, implement that on there, and that will make it him a lot more sturdier. And then the fat usually goes like right here. If the guy has any fat, it would go like right at the bottom, and like where the butt cheeks meet. And I would add a little bit more fat here if he has a little bit of fat, and if he doesn't, then you could add some fibrous holding the control, and clay strip brush, you could add a little bit more of that fibrous muscle there. But we're not so worried about the lower body right now. Let's go deal with the upper body right now and deal with the lower body later. And here, back onto the arm, we gotta work on the arms here. So we know that we have our biceps here, and we're also gonna have our tricep around this area, and then we are gonna have this brachioradialis muscle. So you're really gonna see this on a lot of guys, this muscle right here. This right here. You see that a lot on the forearm, so you cannot ignore that right there. And another thing is this right here, you need to take a look at this. When you are doing the hands, it's best to kind of just rotate a little bit and make it relax. And that way, when you have a relaxed arm, relaxed hand, you're going to be able to better see exactly where the bony landmarks are and how they're playing a part right now It's also good for riggers, so they could see exactly where the joints are. So I'm going to, what I would do, using the lasso tool, I'm gonna go ahead and mask this out. And I'm gonna smooth this. Mask this a little bit. So we want like soft edges around the area that we're gonna rotate. Control I. And once again, regular mask tool. Make sure we have like some soft edges for our mask. And I'm gonna go to my lasso tool. Make sure this area is actually masked, so I'm not rotating anything here. And I'm gonna use my rotate here, go to my set pivot to mask border. And another thing, I'm looking at this, it looks a little bit twisted, this arm, so I would just kind of rotate this. Something like that. Okay. And then rotate this down. All right. And then kind of do this. And unmask that. And as you can see, this is way too thin. So for this, you gotta add the thickness for, you're gonna have like the radius bone here. And you need to have that indication that there is a bony landmark there. So we got our ulnar bone, which is right here. You could go ahead and, using the draw brush, you could have that connect up to here, knowing where it is. You know that we're gonna have this radius bone. Right here. And of course, add a little thickness. I'm gonna use my inflate brush to just inflate this a bit. And we have this weird little dip right there, and that should not be there. I would add a little bit of clay. I think you want to add some veins or some tendons here. You could do that, but just don't exaggerate too much, otherwise you're gonna have like a really strange surface there where you're not even sure if it's muscles or bones, or not sure what it is. But yeah, make it real subtle if you're trying to add tendons or even veins. Yeah, and I would add these a little thicker, and add our bones here. All right, so this part is important. So a big piece of muscle. So we know we have our muscle here. This kind of connects onto the bone, to the half part or lower third of our humerus bone, this muscle right here. And then we're gonna have a pretty big obvious muscle here, which is the extensor digitorum muscle. And the tendons of that muscle allows us to move our fingers here. And yeah, so understanding that, we have to go ahead and create this nice mass of muscle here. And gotta go ahead and make it. The lower arm is always smaller than the upper arm. So you have to show that there when you're doing the overall shape of the arms. All right, and of course we gotta go ahead and add a little bit of thickness here. So when you're thinking of the wrist here, just thinking of this muscle, and then there's going to be a little bit of dip here, and then we have our thumb muscle group, right here. So using the strip brush, the clay strip brush, you just kind of indicate that. There you go. So I'm kind of indicating that there. And we want it to be like subtle, not too much. So these kind of muscles here that you're going to see under the wrist area are going to be quite subtle. So it's going to, most of these muscles is just going to be inserted onto around the thumb area, the base of the thumb area. The tendons are going to go to the thumb area. And keep in mind, from here, we have to look. So from under, looking under here, we have our flexor muscles. And then we have our tricep muscles here. And then let's not forget this nice, interesting muscle. And then we got the brachioradialis here. All right, so from underneath, you're gonna have this brachioradialis, and then you're gonna have the brachioradialis, which is gonna be just part of the bicep muscle group. So you have this shape here, and then you're also gonna have the tricep area right here. And then just demystifying for you guys how it all works from underneath the arms. And then this here is going to be the flexor muscles. It covers most of the under part of the wrist area from underneath. And going back here, we can add some more, a little bit of the muscle area here. So there are 3 heads to our triceps, okay? So we got the short head, long head, lateral head. Okay, so we have this one shape, one, we have 2, and then we have a third one for the triceps, okay? So we have this tricep group muscles on there. And very important to also think about the bony landmarks. You can't just think of the muscles. So definitely add those bones there. So we're gonna have a bone, which is gonna be the radius bone right here. And yeah, we have our radius bone, but we also have our upper arm bone here. So this is gonna be our upper arm bone, right? So there's gonna be a little bit of bony landmark here. And then we have our ulna bone here, right there. And of course we have another bone. We have 2 bones on the lower arm, which is going to be the radius bone. So knowing that we have our humerus bone here, we're going to have to add a little bit of bony landmark on around this area. So the bony landmark is going to be around here, and for this one it's going to be like more like around this area. So it's good to kind of add those bony landmarks so that it doesn't look like your character is just made out of jello. Right now it's going to be very, very subtle, but because we don't have much details here, but later on when you start to add the details, it's very, very important to know exactly where those muscles are, where those bones are, so you could kind of further implement them. And of course, you could take more time on the hands. Think about exactly where the tendons are at. So we got our tendons there. And for the hand area, for the thumb, you gotta add a little bit. Make sure you have your indication of the bony landmarks here for the hand area. And another thing with the hand is you gotta make sure that you kind of have this shape. So when you're looking at the hands and you kind of close it a little bit, you could see that it kind of meets up together when you close it up like that. So I would, using the grab brush, I know he's in a relaxed mode, but it's still kind of make it more like this. And I would add some more of the, I would kind of shape this out so you can see more of the articulation of the joints on the fingers. Using the rotate tool, I would definitely fix that. But let's just focus on the bigger muscles here and just trying to get the right shape. And using my draw sharp, just push this in. So we got that there. So we got some more of the shape here. It's very, very important to understand the anatomy, because if not, you're just, the origin and insertion, because if not, you're going to just keep on guessing where everything is connected. I actually have an anatomy course in victory3d.com where I talk deeper about how the muscles work and how the muscles connect. And I think if you are trying to be a professional 3D character artist, you need to understand more of anatomy at a deeper level if you want to create if you want to take your skills to a higher level. Okay, so now I could kind of add a little bit of details here. Now I would go here and crank up my voxels, bring down my voxel size to maybe 0.04, and then I'm gonna go ahead and remesh that. And I'm gonna go and kind of smooth things out. I'm gonna bring down my smoothing. Yeah, so I'm able to smooth it, but not really getting rid of the details. Just enough so that it will kind of stay there. And looking here, this is a little too thick. And looking here, maybe I could add a little bit of bulkiness there. And another thing about the abs is not 100% symmetrical. So once you have your basic shape down, it's time for you to do the primary forms or secondary forms, I would turn up the symmetry, and I would definitely go and add some asymmetrical look to this. So maybe this here could be a little lower, this could be a little higher, this ab part could be a little higher, and then this here could be a little lower, this a little higher. Could crank up my smoothing brush a bit. A little higher. I'm gonna bring down my brush, my smoothing brush. And then maybe you could add like a little bit of area here for the bulkiness, and then add a little bit more here So I think definitely doing this will give much more realism to your abs of the character if you make it asymmetrical. But yeah, I mean, of course, at the beginning, it's best to create it with symmetry turned on. And then once you are done with the symmetry, then go ahead and add some asymmetrical forms to it. And then you could use if you want to make this a little bit more cut, then you could use the draw sharp to further define the ab area. And same with the side here, you could definitely add a little bit more asymmetrical forms here. So maybe there's going to be a little break on some areas. Little break here and there. Maybe it could be a little thicker in some parts. And then for the chest area, we could also add a little bit of asymmetrical forms here. And then maybe bulk this up a little bit. And right now I'm getting rid of the nipple area, but they could be easily added again. And yeah, we go ahead and smooth that out. Put this area out. We got nice asymmetrical forms going. Yeah, I would go here and just kind of fix this up a bit. Yeah, I would add a little bit more indication of the lats muscle. More of the lats muscle showing there. And smooth that out. And kind of remesh that. Okay. All right, and there's for the upper body.